Wes Goldberg, happy Friday, my friend. Cold open for you. There's a tweet going around, and then DeMarcus Cousins made a point about this, that he argued that Cooper Flagg should do this. That Cooper Flagg, avoid to playing for one of these really bad teams, should go back to Duke for another year. If you were Cooper Flagg, would you even consider this?
No. Does he know how the draft works? If it's not one of these bad teams, it'll just be a different bad team next year. It's going to be one of these bad teams.
Well, some random Hornets fan account did make a thing that said, "Buddy, we're gonna be bad next year. We're not going anywhere." And I was like, "That's a great point. That's a great take from that Hornets fan." This is what I would say. I don't think Cooper Flagg will do this, nor should he. But I think at some point in the NAL era, that someone is going to be like, you know what? I'm going to wait a year. I think someone pretty good is going to do it. It's not going to be this year, but I think someone is going to do it in the next 5 to 10 years.
Maybe it's just here's the biggest problem is that while NIL is getting to the point where it is rivaling NBA rookie contracts, what it's not going to do is rival the 40, 50, 60 million dollar contracts that some of these players are going to be able to sign on their second deal. And so if you wait a year in college, you're delaying the clock until you get real generational wealth potentially. And you're also, just by virtue of increasing your time, increasing the chances of a devastating injury. So I don't know. I have as long as it's one and done, I don't see it happening. If you're ready to go and be one of these top picks, I just think these guys are going to go. I think these guys are going to go. And in fact, if they can come out of high school, if they can get out there earlier, they're going to do that too, because the money is just too rich at this point.
Yeah. On today's show, we're going to do tiers. We're going to skip all the bad teams. We're going to skip the teams that we just don't need to talk about in this context. We're going to get into the tiers of the best in the NBA. That's coming up today on the Just Basketball Show. Let's freaking go.
Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Oh, LeBron James with no regard for human life.
What is up, everyone? Chris Manning and Wes Goldberg here with you on Friday, March 7th, covering all things hoops here on the Just Basketball Show. Haven't already, find us on TikTok, Instagram, X, Blue Sky. Hit subscribe on YouTube. Hit subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Do all of that, please, and thank you. And Wes, we're powered by our friends at BetMGM.
Yes, we are. Today's episode is brought to you by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code JustBasketball, and you'll get up to $1,500 in a first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Sign up using the code JustBasketball. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure to use the bonus code JustBasketball when you sign up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions apply.
Wes, let's dive into tiers. So I'm just going to list off the teams we're just not even going to touch, because I think that's what we should do. Just eliminate a bunch of teams off the top that we can just say, not in this exercise today. Those teams are the Utah Jazz, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, the Toronto Raptors. Those are 5. Then we go Sixers, Spurs, Nets, Blazers, Bulls. And then I think we can finagle where we're getting here. But those are the teams I just knocked off right off the bat. Do you want to knock off the Suns as well? Where do we want to go with this?
I mean, what's the point of the exercise here? Are we just going to list the best 15 teams in the league and just go from there?
I think we should do. I think it should be varying degrees of can this team actually if we're tiering this out, and I think about it from the top down. I'm thinking I have a top tier of these are the teams I really feel can win the title. There's 2 teams right below that I think have a puncher's shot to a slightly better than a puncher's shot of winning the title. And then there's a bunch of teams that are playoffy, but I don't trust it. And then some teams that are a little less. I like a little bit less. And then there's just a bunch of blah is what I would say. That's kind of how.
Why don't we just limit it to the top 8 teams as they stand right now?
I love it.
In each conference. So sorry, okay. Phoenix. Sorry, Dallas. Sorry, Sacramento. You're out. Sorry, Atlanta. Sorry, Chicago. You're out. We go from there.
All right. Do you want to start a tier? Let's start at tier 1. Let's go from there.
To be top.
I have 3 teams in tier 1. Cleveland Cavaliers, winners of 12 straight, 52-10, first team to clinch a playoff berth. I have the Boston Celtics, defending champs. and I have the Oklahoma City Thunder, the best team in the West, with an 11-game lead on both the Lakers and the Nets. That is my tier 1. I think that's a pretty clearly defined tier 1.
No notes. Yep. That's the top 3 teams, the top 3 title favorites. I think if you're picking somebody to win the championship, it has to be one of those teams probably at this point. I suppose we could debate that, but for the body of work, for the lead that they have in their conferences, for everything that they've put together, those are the top 3 teams in the league.
When you think about them now, Wes, and you think about how you break down how you favor them against each other, where are you at on how you tier out tier 1? Like, who do you have as your favorite? Who do you have as 2? Like, I go back and forth on this because there's some days I think I just shouldn't overthink Boston being the defending champs and probably coasting a little bit. If they're fully healthy, they're going to be a hard out for Cleveland. I think Porzingis particularly is a really tough matchup for Evan Mobley, and that's going to shape a series. You made this point the other day. It's a great one. Are we just overthinking that the Thunder aren't the best team in the league? And then I look at the Cavs and say, like, they're kind of just really fucking good, and maybe I shouldn't overthink that team is just damn good and keeps winning games and just has like a seemingly a grit and a fire to them that helps them come back from big down to Boston, even if Boston, was down certain players, right? So, like, how do you break out that top tier?
Man, I change my mind every day, and it sort of just depends on which team I watched play a really good game more recently. But, I think, yes, the Celtics are the defending champs. Are we sure that's a positive? When was the last time we had a repeat champion? 2018.
Well, and
it's been a long time. In Adam Silver's NBA,
yeah,
it's almost a detriment to have won the championship the year before. It's almost a predictive quality of not winning the championship the next season.
Factoring in also that they had 2 guys play heavy minutes for Team USA. A third guy was at Team USA, but kind of famously didn't play a lot, but was there. Horford's old, and Porzingis came off of a pretty significant injury and has a pretty checkered medical history. Like, there are just like red flags. Yeah. Staring you in the face.
And the East is a lot better, including with Cleveland. The Cavaliers have been the better basketball team this season. If you're going to pick the Celtics to be at the top, or even just over Cleveland, I suppose at this point, it's just blind faith that they can recreate the level of dominance that they had last year. Because anything short of that level of dominance, they're at best tied with the Cavaliers, at best. Right? Like, last year's dominant Celtics team was better than this year's dominant Cavs team. And I don't think they're going to be as dominant as they were last year. I think that there's some issues. I think Drew Holiday has not been the same player. I don't think Derek White has been the same on either end of the court. So, I don't know. I would probably... I'm gonna not answer this question because I don't know how I would. To me, this is why we do tiers, is so that we don't have to rank them 1 through 3. It's a nice little way for us to hedge and not answer that question. So I don't know how I would order it.
Nice coward way out, Wes. I would break it down this way. I would go right now just because I think they're gonna have an easier time in the West. I think I would give Oklahoma City like 40%. Like, I think they're gonna win, and then leaves you 60%. I give Cleveland like 33 and Boston 27. It's kind of how I'm breaking it down in my head. It's like very close. It could go either way. No one team is so far ahead of the other. But I think Oklahoma City will like have the easier path theoretically, and they have just been so good. And I still am back on my head. I'm like, am I underrating the Cavs? Am I underrating this? Like, to your point, maybe I also should be a coward and not answer my own question because I think it is picking nits. I mean, even the Cleveland-Boston thing, it's like they've been separated by 1 point this year. I think the most competitive regular season game I saw was Cavs Thunder in Cleveland. That was like just an insane game that was back and forth. Could have broken the other way very easily, right? Like, there's been such a thin margin when these teams have actually crossed over with each other that you're splitting hairs. Or, frankly, I think if anyone feels overly confident about one of these teams, I think they're probably either a diehard fan of one of these teams, they're a gambler, or they just don't know what they're talking about, right? Like, I think it's one of those things where it's entirely wide open at the very, very top. Even though I think those are clearly the best 3 teams. Cavs Celtics. I hope to God that I think we'll get it. I think we need that series. I think I need to feel like I'm gonna die like twice over a couple weeks span watching that series. Let's go to tier 2. I only have 2 teams in my second tier, Wes, right now.
Okay. I have the same. I wonder if they're the same teams, but I only have two in the next one.
Do we have the Denver Nuggets in that tier?
Yes,
And do you have the Los Angeles Lakers in that tier?
I do.
Okay. I think these are the two teams that if I'm saying it's the Lakers and the Nuggets to me, of the two if any team is going to knock off one of those top three teams, it's going to be Denver, it's going to be LA. I can't see any other team like me feeling really good about their chances against those teams. And it's really a star power thing with those teams, right? Like you give me Nikola Jokic in a 7-game playoff series and I'm the other team, I'm going to be scared and I think there's a chance I'm going to lose. That is the best player in the world still. He's not going to win MVP this year, but Nikola Jokic is the best player in basketball still. He could still absolutely wreck a series. And if Murray continues to play how he's playing, they could beat anyone in a series. The Lakers have Luka Doncic and LeBron James, and they're playing awesome since that trade has happened. And Luka's only going to get better. These teams, I think, to varying degrees, both have just really, really high upside in a way that some other teams you can make an argument for in this tier do not have.
I think, look, the fact that Denver's in this tier is not surprising. They have the best player on the planet. And they've been playing really well. Right, like they've been up there all season long. They just have a few more holes in the top, the teams in the top that we were talking about, right? But if the Nuggets were to win the championship, I don't think anybody could be surprised, right? So you've got that. They're also figuring out their bench. I think there's still some questions about Russell Westbrook and his spacing and all of that when you get into a playoff series. But Zeke Naji has been playing really well for them as Jokic's backup, and I think that's a potential game changer that we're not. I don't think the NBA media space is ready to have a deep Zeke Naji conversation, but this might be something that happens in the playoffs. But the fact that the Lakers are in here is remarkable, but also obvious and undeniable. They have to be here. It's the same thing. Denver has to be here because they have the best player on the planet. The Lakers have to be here because they have Luka, who did this last year, got the Mavericks to an NBA Finals, and they have LeBron. And LeBron has been playing like one of the best 10 players in the league over the last few weeks here. He seems more energized with Luka. He's playing defense in a way that he didn't play earlier this season. Luka and LeBron are clicking right away because they're genius passers. This is extended LeBron here to the point where he can pick his spots a little bit more. He's working off the ball, all these things. And then defensively, even before they traded Anthony Davis, when he was still hurt, they were still playing really high-level defense without Anthony Davis. And credit to JJ Redick, but also the roster makes sense in terms of why they're able to be so good defensively. I know that there's a little bit of a hole there at center. Jackson Hayes has been playing really well lately, but they have length across every position, every spot. And every time you try to drive against the Lakers, it's arms in your way. They crash the paint. I think JJ Redick has set it up really well where he says, we're going to take the paint away. You're not going to be able to score on us. And if you do get into the paint, there's just going to be a lot of limbs in your face. And we're going to make it really hard on you to convert there. There's quite a bit of three-point shooting luck here involved. But even if the Lakers kind of come back down to earth from best team in the league by defensive rating since February 1st to just still in the top 10, that's still the making of a contender. So I think we're at the point now where after the Luka trade, everybody was like, well, does this open up the Lakers window? They probably have to make some more moves in the offseason. The Mark Williams thing fell through. No. They're contenders right now. They'll probably be contenders next year. But they have to be in this tier. They're second in the Western Conference as we're sitting here. I mean, they have to be.
Yeah. The LeBron thing, I think, is the most fascinating part of it because, number one, like, he's just got miles and minutes on his body that no one's ever had, but he's still LeBron, so you're just like, until he absolutely just, like, looks cooked, I'm never going to think he is.
Does he look at all cooked?
No,
right
and
now?
this is my point. It's like, you're seeing a LeBron who can still just rev up everything. I don't know if you saw, like, there was like an Austin Reeves clip going around about he was like, as a rookie, trying to beat like LeBron to the arena, and he just like never could do it because LeBron just got there so early for his routine every day. And it's like, that's what it takes to like do this at this age, and he's willing to do it, and he's a psycho about it, and he's like almost like an underrated psycho because he's kind of has a more bubbly, kind of easygoing personality, like his friends with Steph and everything now. Like, there's not like LeBron doesn't have like heat with anyone anymore, you know? Like, he's kind of just like the affable older veteran who's just like friends with everyone. Like he didn't have that MFer in him in the way that I think we most associated with star athletes, which I think is not a bad thing. The other part of it is like you can see games now where LeBron is like he like sees if Luka has it for spurts or not, and then if Luka's like a little off one night, he's like, oh, I can just like take over for a little bit and like do that. And it's like the first time I've ever seen him fully comfortable deferring to someone in that way. He was never fully comfortable doing this with Kyrie in Cleveland. I think maybe like the Wade thing, you could have a better perspective on that to me. I don't remember it being quite like this, and he's older now, and I get it. But I think with Luka, there's times where he's fully comfortable just handing over the reins to Luka, and then Austin Reeves comes in as like this ultimate like wild card X factor that is playing unbelievably and has like even more freedom to create positive chaos now in that third role. Like that is a team in a 7-game series, Wes, that if you told me they beat anyone 4 times just because they have Luka and LeBron and the way they're playing right now, I'd be like, yeah, that I can totally see it just based on the way they're structured and the smarts and the flow of everything they're doing. Totally could see it.
Yeah, I guess I would compare it. It's the first time, really, where you could have a serious debate about if LeBron is the best player on his team since the first year of the Big Three.
Yeah.
And I think also at this point, this is the perfect teammate for LeBron. LeBron is an ace pitcher, kind of moving into, all right, you know what? I just don't have 7 innings in me every night anymore, but I have 1 or 2 really good innings in me still all the time. And adding Luka has allowed LeBron to kind of shift from ace pitcher to closer. And we even saw this the other night. I can't remember which game it was, but Luka was awesome for the first 3 quarters, and then LeBron took over in the 4th, and the Lakers won that game. And I was like, oh, there it is. That's the formula. Boom. That's it. Let it happen. When you have those guys on the court, we said this about LeBron, 10 straight finals. When you had him during that time, you always had a chance. I think Luka's in that conversation now. As long as he's healthy, you're going to have a chance. Now you have both of them on the same team. And when LeBron is engaged, I said this after the Olympics, Chris, like, is this guy still a top 10 player in the league? This is crazy because he was so good in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. And then he took his foot off the gas the way that LeBron does in the regular season. He was really bad defensively for the first 2 months of this year. But then he's kicked into high gear and he's played like a top 10 player. He's still one of these guys. And you have both of those guys on the court. I think it should be really scary to other teams by how quickly these guys have figured it out. They're always going to have an ace playmaker on the floor, but they're playing really well together in their minutes. And you put those guys in that just innate basketball IQ and feel for the game on the court in any playoff series, and that's got to be really scary. And then you look at the team at the top of the West, the Thunder, who we have agreed is in the number 1 tier here, but who took out the Thunder last year? Luka Doncic. And they still don't really have an answer for Luka Doncic on their roster.
And
he's the guy who controls the ball, is bigger, more physical. If I'm the Thunder, I'm looking at, and if I get the Lakers in a matchup, there's going to be a lot of people picking the Lakers in that series. And I don't know that they should. I'd probably still pick the Thunder, but it wouldn't shock me if the Lakers won that series considering the matchup.
Yeah, and it's not even, if you think about like the rim pressure component of that, Wes, I think Chet's one day going to be like one of the best rim protectors in the league. He's already really damn good. Hartenstein's a big body. Like LeBron and Luka creating like rim pressure for shooters in that series could send the Thunder spiraling if the Lakers shooters are clicking. You know what I mean? It's like the kind of series where if like Reeves is just like getting these kick out threes and just bombing them, or Connect gets hot or something, it's like, what do you even do? There's like, it's not going to be these like elegantly drawn sets, right? Like it's just going to be LeBron and Luka doing LeBron and Luka shit and wrecking you with it. Like, and there's not really anything you can do to game plan against it. It's like last year with the Luka against the Thunder, it wasn't really anything I felt like the Thunder like botched from a game plan perspective. It was just like, I don't know, man, Luka was better. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes it just happens. Like, and that is one of the beauties of basketball, is that you can have all this stuff, and then one guy can absolutely say fuck your game plan, and I'm gonna ruin you. Totally. Now you have 2 of those guys on one team, and it's like Dort defends one, J Daniel defends the other. It's like still good luck, and it's not Caruso is big enough to size up and defend those guys either. So like, you don't even have like other options after those 2 guys if they're in foul trouble or it doesn't work.
So give me your next tier here, because I think this will be interesting. Give me your next tier, and then I'm probably going to ask you why they wouldn't be in this second tier.
I
And
thi-
for the
I
record,
think-
we have the same tier so far.
Yes, and I think that's a good framing on how to do that. Okay, so my next tier, I'm pulling it up on my phone because my notes app on my computer is being slow today. My next tier would be the New York Knicks, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Golden State Warriors, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Detroit Pistons. All in one big tier.
Okay. We have our first disagreement here, and
Okay.
I couldn't disagree more with a lot
Okay.
of this.
I love this. Good. We agree to honestly, Wes. We agree too much. If I'm being honest, like I think we need to disagree more. You and I need to like have like this, and this is not a work. This is a shoot. You and I oftentimes like come to similar. Like even if we look at things like differently slightly, we are coming things from like the same perspective a lot of the time because we're of a similar age. We come up of a similar age of basketball internet. Like we're both, I think, more like thoughtful guys to pat ourselves on the back a little bit.
Thank you.
I think we both read, and I'm not no shade to like a lot of NBA. Some people just like don't fucking read and think about stuff. I'm glad we disagree on something hard here. So tell me why I'm being a moron here. Please cook me.
First of all, I love your Pistons optimism, but they do not belong in this tier. Stop.
I have a theory of tier is what I would say. We can get to it when you tell me why I'm wrong.
To me, I would have the Warriors, the Bucks, and the Knicks in a tier, and then the rest
Yeah.
of your teams are not in that.
Okay. I have this tier as like the teams that I actually think are going to be annoying outs in the playoffs here because I don't think any of these teams are actually beating any of the 5 teams ahead of mine. But I think to varying degrees, they're all going to be like annoying outs in the playoffs, and we're going to learn something about where they're going this year. And I would actually like be stressed out if I see them in a series.
You know what? I'm gonna kick the Knicks out of this tier. I'm going Warriors and Bucks. I have them as a 2-team tier below this one because I do agree there should be a tier for what you're saying. I think the Knicks belong in that tier. I think the Warriors and Bucks, there's a path to where one of those teams are winning the championship.
I think the Warriors, yes. I do not think I am like vehemently like because of Giannis, I don't want to totally write them off.
That's sort of it. That's
So
the end of my logic. And Chris, they've won 4 in a row.
I know.
They're
okay.
fourth in the East. They're gonna have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy path, but Giannis is going to be the best player on the court pretty much every series in the Eastern Conference.
I have two things about them that it does not click for me. Number one, if you're a team that has to dump Chris Middleton in season for Kyle Kuzma, I don't think of you as like there's something
Kuzma's
about
not
that.
been bad.
It's like not been bad. It's just like if that's your big move, of just like there's something there that doesn't sit well with me in terms of where your roster is at, right? Like you're improving, but it's like this is a weird.
I don't know.
I
So they made 3 additions. They did Kyle Kuzma, Jericho Sims, and Kevin Porter Jr. And all 3 of those guys are adding stuff. None of them are like sort of the catch-all, do-everything connector that Chris Middleton was in his heyday. But Kyle Kuzma adds important scoring, like an important scoring element that Middleton just wasn't providing on a night-to-night basis anymore. Jericho Sims provides heft and size in that front court that they desperately needed. Kevin Porter Jr. is kind of live to do something crazy every game, and he's a little unpredictable, and he can score, and he can handle the ball a little bit. These guys have really added something to this roster, and this bigger lineup that they've gone to with Taurean Prince ostensibly at the 2 at this point, I think can cause some problems in certain matchups. And Damian Lillard and Giannis are as good as they've ever been. I can't write them off. Now, they are, to be clear, in the 3rd tier. So one of these teams winning the championship, Milwaukee or Golden State winning the championship, by definition would be a surprise. But I don't think it's not implausible either. Like, I don't know what the percent chance is, if it's 1, 2, 3, 5%, whatever it is. Where I just think like a team like Memphis, Detroit, like these teams aren't winning the championship this year. Where, at least I'm talking about Steph and Giannis at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Real Malik Beasley shade on not including him in the Steph category when their shooting numbers have broken similarly, Wes. I say that in jest.
I know.
The thing with the Bucks is how they're going to guard Cleveland or Boston. In a 7-game series, I don't know. I really don't know. The Cavs, like, I can see it a little bit easier just because they have Giannis on Mobley, okay, Brooks on Allen. They're bigger, so like the Cavs have smaller guards. I don't think they're really going to stop Mitchell, who's going to be fresh. But this, like, how are they guarding Boston? I don't know. Like KPJ, I think has been an additive offensive thing for them. I think there's a chance he's absolutely getting played off the floor by these teams in the playoffs when they just decide he's the guy. Him and Dame are going to get attacked, I think, relentlessly when they're on the floor in the playoffs. Like the Bucks' defensive upside, I'm not totally there with. Is really, I think, my concern with them. But it's like if Giannis is still the best player in the East, and like it's kind of like he's just been in a weird spot since they won the title. It felt like, and like that, and the way they lost to Miami and all that stuff. It just feels like there's gonna be a playoffs, and maybe this doesn't happen this year, but there's probably gonna be another Giannis playoffs where he's just like y'all must have forgot Giannis playoffs, and
Right.
Even if they don't win the title, like he just has like a monster 6-week run. Maybe that's this year.
I mean, he's had a monster whole season run so far. He's been great.
He should be closer. Him and Jokic should both be closer to SG in the MVP race. Is really my thought here too, honestly, because I agree with you. It shouldn't be this far. Like SG's been great. He should probably win the MVP, but like Jokic and Giannis shouldn't be so far away from like a betting perspective in that. I don't think.
I haven't looked at the betting odds on BetMGM lately, but who would you have 4 and 5? Because I agree. I think those are the top 3, and they've basically been the top 3 all season. But I think 4 and 5 there's like 4 or 5 players that you could make an argument for.
Think you make an argument. Even I think there's a good Mitchell argument for 5, probably 4 or 5. Because like his per 36 are still freaking great, even if he's kind of taken a little bit of a step back. He's on the best team in the East, best team in the league, perhaps. Mm-hmm. So there's him. I think Tatum probably is there to some degree. He's been really, really good this year in a way, and that I think is interesting. You know, do you get into like Steph? Do you get into? I mean, the Wolves are not there record-wise, but Ant has like been really, really damn good this year. Like, is he in there for you on a long list? Like, I do think there are a lot of names. I would probably go Tatum and Mitchell. Would probably be where I go. Just kind of defaulting to like best guys on the best teams. But like, if you had Anthony Edwards 5 and Mitchell 4, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Or Tatum 4.
You could have Tatum 3 with Giannis at 4. But yeah, those would be my 5. Those would be my
Yeah.
All right, so I've got the Warriors and Bucks in a tier. So
can we talk? Let's just talk about the Warriors for a second. I think you were something of when we initially talked about the Jimmy Butler trade. Yeah. I was more optimistic, I think, about their upside and where they were going this year or next year than I think you were at the time. And I don't think that optimism for me hasn't really waned. But why do you, to me, seem more optimistic about where the Warriors are at right now?
I knew it would click with Steph right away because that's just that basketball marriage makes a lot of sense. I'm not surprised that it has clicked with Draymond. I'm just surprised by how quickly it clicked with Draymond. It kind of flips everything that we know about spacing and how important spacing is in the NBA on its head. And it just says, nope, basketball IQ just figures that out. Like, life finds a way, basketball IQ finds a way. And Jimmy and Draymond have been great together. And Jimmy just covers up for a lot of the things that have been plaguing the Warriors. They don't get to the free throw line, Jimmy does. They foul too much, Jimmy never fouls. They turn the ball over too much, Jimmy never turns the ball over. They needed a real scoring option. Jimmy is that next to Steph Curry. Steph Curry is shouldering too much of an offensive load and too much of a playmaking load. Now he can play off of Jimmy Butler, who's a real threat offensively in a way that Draymond isn't. I just think that he fixes a lot of these issues. I have a lot of concerns about how they hold up in certain matchups in the playoffs. I think they're too small. Are we really going to be playing Draymond at the 5 for the next 20 games? That to me is a little surprising. I also want to see them play a good basketball team. I know they beat the Knicks the other night, but they did it without Cat. They've had a bit of a cupcake schedule here post trade deadline. I don't know that they have a signature win, and I want to see something like that in a big moment. But at the same time, I don't doubt their ability to climb that hill, right? Like, they have Steph, they have Jimmy, they have Draymond, they have guys that have done this, and so Steve Kerr's done a nice job coaching them with all the changes that they made. So yeah, we'll see. I think their depth is really shaky and probably the shakiest of all the teams that we've talked about so far.
Yes.
But there's a reason why they're in the 3rd tier here, and not in the 2nd or a 1st tier. But When you got Jimmy, when you got Draymond, Steph, like you can't overlook them.
Some interesting games for them coming up on the schedule against other teams sort of in their vein, which I think has kind of broken nicely in the schedule. Pistons on Saturday, which also could be the Jonathan Kuminga return game if Shams' reporting ends up kind of holding true. It's been a slower I think we would have thought Kuminga would have been back by now. He hasn't been, but if he's back on Saturday, then you see how he adds here. And that's going to be a huge that's a huge upside play for them, getting him back and being healthy and playing well. They have the Nuggets twice before the end of the year. They have the Lakers. They actually have unfortunately for like the schedule, I wish they was like a little more broken up, but they have the Lakers in LA and then they're home against the Nuggets the next night. I wish those weren't back-to-backs. Like I wish that we had like the third and then like the fifth or something just to kind of see that. It's a lot of bad teams in there as well, but like they have games against teams of their ilk, play the Knicks, they play the Bucks as well. We're gonna I think see how they really stack up against that tier, especially now that Kuminga's coming back. They to me, if I'm like building out a list of teams that I want to watch the rest of the way, I think like them and the Lakers to some degree are like they're probably 1 and 2 for me, just in terms of like where is this going? Like what can I download over this next month before the playoffs start?
So if the playoffs were to start today, and NBA.com started putting this out, I think maybe today because I hadn't noticed it before, but they start putting their brackets out, and obviously the brackets move over these next couple weeks. But
yeah,
if the playoffs were to start today, the Warriors would play the Nuggets in the first round. I think the Nuggets wipe the floor with them.
Yeah.
I don't think that's close. But the Warriors are only a couple of games back of the Rockets. If they can get into that 4-5 matchup against either Houston or Memphis, now I see a world where the Warriors advance. They'd have to play the winner of the Thunder and the 8th seed. But the one team I wouldn't want to see if I'm the Warriors is the Nuggets, because I don't think they have an answer for Jokic or their size in general, sort of across the board. But any other, the Lakers could be a little tough for them too, because I don't know who guards Luka and LeBron for them.
LeBron and Luka could totally dominate the pace of that series in a way the Warriors are not built to, I think, to accommodate it this time.
It's still Steph and LeBron. LeBron has gotten the best of Steph lately when they've met in like play-in tournaments and stuff like that. But that to me is interesting. But you've got to sell me. Who did you have? Memphis in this tier?
I had all the frisky teams, and I probably shouldn't have. I was really just going for a little bit of content, trying to create some disagreement, Wes. Because I had the Pistons, the Grizzlies, and the Knicks also in that tier.
All right, so you don't even have the Pacers yet.
I have the Pacers and the Rockets in their own thing right below that.
You are a Pacers skeptic if I've ever seen one.
It's not. I think the Pacers and the Rockets are basically teams that I really like that I think are probably getting drubbed by, and like they might both lose in round one.
Sell me on your Grizzlies vision. Let's start there.
I think Jaren Jackson Jr. has just been phenomenal for one.
You're not concerned about the injury?
Yeah. How can you not be? But it's like...
He should be back for the playoffs for what it's worth.
That's the thing. And it's like, if he's back and he's playing good, where he was... That guy can be like the best defensive player in a series. If he's not playing on a floor with Wembanyama or Mobley, like he's gonna probably be the best defensive player on the floor in a series. Like that can be a really big deal. I'm just like also like there's the Ja thing in how he's felt like we talked about this, how he feels like a sports car, like kind of like stuck in second gear. If that fourth gear fully comes out the way it has in some close games at some spots, like unleashed, they have Bane as another scorer. I think they're well coached. Like I think there's just like there's something about that team that really just intrigues me, even if I'm skeptical of it. Like there's something there that I feel like could be further unlocked, even if I'm skeptical. Like I like all the pieces. I like the idea. I like Taylor Jenkins. I like the philosophy of how they play. But even if I feel like there's something missing there, I just totally can't write it off. There's just like something missing, but I can't quite identify what it is that is missing, and therefore, I'm talking myself into it to some degree.
They're missing their defense. Their defense has been bad these last few weeks, and that was before the Jaren Jackson Jr. injury. So they need to figure it out defensively because it has not been there. I am with you though that there is an element that I can't quit with Memphis, and it does feel like their defense should be better and will be better. I have I have some questions about their depth. I think we think about Memphis as a deep team, and then you kind of look at the depth chart and you're like, I don't know how many guys like that I trust in a playoff series here.
Under discussed team that missed on a lot of draft picks team.
Interesting.
I mean, David Roddy, we're not on like that was a first round pick for them, not there.
I think it's fair to have them in a tier. I just wouldn't have had them as high as you would have had them.
That's fine. Dude, where do you the Knicks? I think
I would
are
have the
kind of
Pacers over them.
Okay.
The Pacers made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Tyrese Halliburton has been playing great lately, like out of his mind lately. Pascal Siakam has a case for an All-NBA team this season. Andrew Nembhard is quietly an awesome playoff player.
Yeah.
Rick Carlisle is a great coach. They have an interesting style of play that still tends to catch opponents off guard at times. I wouldn't move them up a bunch of tiers, but I have them over Memphis.
Pacers Bucks round 1 right now. Who are you picking?
Yeah. I go Milwaukee here, but it wouldn't shock me if the Pacers won that series. And they've kind of had Milwaukee's number.
And they have the inside track on Detroit right now. For the 5 seed with about a month ago. They have a couple games in hand and they're a game and a half. They have 3 games in hand and they're a game and a half up, which puts them in a really good position to hold on to 5 if the Pistons stay at 6. So that's good news for Indiana. I probably underrated Indiana a little bit if I'm being honest. I just really like the Pistons. I think I'm also learning. The more I watch the Pistons, I'm just kind of like falling in love with the Pistons, which I like. It's not gonna end. It's not gonna end in anything major for them. But I just have I've kind of just fallen in love with everything they're doing.
Look, since January 1st, Detroit has the 11th best offense in the league and the 2nd best defense in the league. Like this is a good basketball team. Right now, it would be Knicks Pistons in the 3-6 matchup.
That's an incredible. Like I really need that to hold. That would be such a good first round series. I don't know if like you're probably picking the Knicks, but would you feel great about it?
I might pick the Pistons.
Yeah,
they've been better lately.
Knicks are just also. I know Robinson's back. I don't trust that he's like actually going to be back, or that someone else isn't going to get hurt.
That is one of those things that Knicks fans care a lot more about than everybody else that's observing the NBA. It's, hey, I don't believe in the Knicks. A Knicks fan will tell you, well, we haven't had Mitchell Robinson all year. Just wait. I'm with you. I'm like, okay, cool. When does he get hurt again?
Yeah. Doesn't matter. Like, and if they're playing, we saw this. The Knicks fans, again, when they were here, when Cavs Knicks were here a couple weeks ago, they were like apoplectic with how bad that loss was. So the Cavs' worst loss of the Tibbs. They've had like these really weird low moments, and then like they kind of rebounded, had that really crazy game against the Grizzlies, incidentally. But it's been just like a little bit of a lower, I think, ceiling than I would have thought coming into this year with them. And they aren't the same team they were. Like they don't feel quite as like gritty in the way they're built as they were a couple years ago, which I think was by design, but it just feels different now than it did when made them really interesting like a year and a half ago. Which we've talked a lot about where they might be going, and how you've made the point that maybe this isn't the year they're all in on a title, but it's like setting the stage for that, which I think is fair. All right,
who did we overlook? Yeah.
So the teams I think we haven't talked about that are probably worth hitting on here. I would say the Rockets. Mm-hmm. We haven't had a Rockets discussion in a while. We were over on the Rockets team here on the show. That was one of our teams, Wes. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the big one. I mean, the other teams kind of on the fringes of all of this would be the Heat, the Wolves, the Magic, and the Clippers. Those would be kind of the other ones, kind of a step below those, I would say.
Well, yeah, let's stick on the Rockets here. And my only take really is that I love the Rockets. I love watching the Rockets. I love everything about the Rockets. I love the Rockets. I never believed in the Rockets as a legitimate title team. And every time I did any kind of power rankings for whatever outlet that I'm working on, I would always leave them out of my top 5, even though there was a large part of the season where they were kind of clearly, you looked at all the metrics and everything, their strength of schedule, everything. Qualitatively, by the numbers, they're one of the best 4 teams in the NBA for most of this season, and I would never move them into my top 5 because I just never believed in them as a viable playoff threat, and this is why we're kind of seeing it now. They've been beset with a lot of injuries lately, and that's probably the biggest reason for their recent slide in the standings. But I just don't know how this team's going to score offensively in a playoff series. I don't know how they do it. They throw a ball to a player and they say, "You go do something. And let's just wait." They look forward to getting back on defense, which is really cool, and I like watching the Rockets. but they are like so over every offensive possession within 2 seconds of the shot clock that I don't know how they're going to function offensively in a playoff series when it's going to be a demand to get through your actions, get through a second, get through a third, get through a fourth action. They're way over reliant on Fred VanVleet to be setting the table for everything. There's nobody else that can really do anything like that. Jalen Green is still their most explosive offensive player, and that's on a coin flip basis, on a night-to-night basis. So, I don't know. I like Houston. I think defensively they cause some problems. I think they'd be a really interesting matchup, but to me, I think they're just like the Orlando Magic of last year. Elite defense when they're right. Major questions offensively. Don't necessarily want to be in a rock fight in the first round, but you'll make it out of it and you'll be okay.
I think you could have just said the Orlando Magic still. Like, that's still kind of the Magic is the thing.
Yep. Totally fair.
Like, they're literally the same team in a lot of ways, and like now don't have Jalen Suggs. I think the Rockets thing is fascinating because, Wes, I think it's like baked into the idea that there's clearly a roster change or evolution to come in the summer. Like, I just feel like that is a lock to happen. Mm-hmm. But their strategy right now is not a good strategy, even if you have like really great offensive players. Right? Like, if you had elite offensive players, and
Devin
it was
Booker,
like,
for instance, totally random, but just for example.
No wishful thinking about that kind of trade for Rockets fans, I'm sure. If you had Devin Booker, throwing him the ball and saying get a shot up as quickly as possible and like just cook in isolation with no plan would be a bad strategy if you had him. It's a bad plan if you have Jokic. You know what I mean?
I will at least. It feels like they do that because they don't have a Devin Booker or a Jokic, right? If you had that player, I think you would just reframe the offense around a player. If you had a player worth building around offensively, you could build something around that player. Right now, they just don't have an offensive player to build around, so there's just no building. They just kind of do stuff.
Yeah, they just do stuff is a great way to put it. You're like poking them with the stick, and you're like waiting for them to do more stuff. And it's like in the playoffs, it's like teams loading up on Jalen Green, loading up on VanVleet, loading up on Amen Thompson, who we love, loading up on Sengun. It's like I think there's a chance they're averaging like 92 points per game in the playoffs. It's gonna be dreadful.
I would bet money that they average fewer than 100 points in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. That is, I'd be sure of it.
Would you the other way to frame? Would you bet money that they would score more than 100 points in the playoffs? Absolutely not. You would just be flushing money down the toilet.
No, and that's why I don't even think they're winning in round one. I'm probably
right.
If they're playing Memphis, Memphis could be like, if Jaren's not healthy, okay, maybe, but like if they play the Nuggets, if they play the Warriors, if they play whoever they end up with, however this breaks,
there's not a matchup that I like.
There's not a matchup I like for them.
Weirdly, the best matchup for them is Oklahoma City.
Yes. But you still would be like, you in your right mind, you're not saying, yes, the Houston Rockets are going to be the team that knocks the Thunder off the pedal. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. But you're right. It's the one matchup that's there. Wes, let's formalize this for a graphic. Let's put these in tiers so we can put this on social, and then we'll do a poll on YouTube. Which of the top tier teams you think is your favorite for the title right now? Maybe that's the poll. I'll come up with something else. Tier 1, Cavs, Celtics, Thunder. Agreed?
Yep.
Yay? We'll do yays or nays. Tier 2, Nuggets, Lakers.
Yes.
Okay. Tier 3, Warriors. Who else we putting in here? Bucks. We've been Warriors, Bucks on their own. Is that how you have it?
I had the Bucks. I don't know if I convinced you.
I think Giannis is enough for me to put them in there.
Okay.
Like Cavs, Bucks. Like if I'm putting myself in my Cavs, hat fan on, Giannis in a series would stress me out for 2 weeks.
Yep.
No question. All right, we're going to do a new tier then. No other teams in tier 3.
I don't think so.
Okay, so we go Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
Pacers. Pistons.
Okay.
Grizzlies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems right. And then, do we have a tier 5?
Rockets.
Oh yeah, Rockets.
And then all the other teams that we didn't talk about.
Yeah, Rockets are kind of in their own little thing. So there's
maybe Rockets, and then it's like those play-in teams that we didn't talk about. So I mean, I would move Minnesota into the same tier as the Rockets.
All right, we'll put them.
I would put the Clippers in the same tier as the Rockets. And then you've just got the Eastern Conference teams, the Heat and the Magic. I-95, baby.
You making that trip up for the playing game? Is that what we're doing? You think?
I won't have to. The Magic have to come here.
Oh, that's right.
If the standings stay the same, which I hope they do, because I don't want to make that trip to Orlando.
Yeah, I would like that for you as well. All right, Wes, we're gonna end the show. Tankathon Sim, get out of here.
See, I forgot about it again. Okay.
Ha! And last week we switched to one day, and you're like, I'm gonna remember, and then
Nope.
guess what? You didn't remember. You didn't remember. It's okay. It's been a long week. It's been a long week in the content.
No, it's
factory.
good. That's great for content. Wow.
Oh,
Even keeping me guessing.
Wes, Jesus Christ! This is the chaos one that I would really like. You ready? We're gonna go
finally.
5-1. Washington goes to 5. They karmically deserve to go to 5. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jazz go to 4. Karmically deserves to go to 4.
Yep.
Charlotte goes to 3.
Wow.
New Orleans goes up to 2.
Wait, then hold on. Does that mean the Thunder get the first pick?
That means the Houston Rockets via the Phoenix Suns get the first pick.
Whoa!
Yeah. And this gets into our.
Oh no, Phoenix.
And if I'm Phoenix, I'm picking up the phone immediately and I'm saying, number 1 pick for Devin Booker. I'm just.
Well, you
doing
say
it.
number 1 pick for Kevin Durant. Houston says, "What about Devin Booker?"
And then you
and
say
then
yes.
Phoenix
and then you
says
say
yes, and then Houston's like,
Yeah.
"Psych, we don't want it anyway. We'll just take
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg."
We'll
thanks."
just take Cooper Flagg. But
Would you do that?
I think
If
yeah,
you were the
I would.
Rockets, would you do Cooper Flagg for Devin Booker?
I think I would.
I think I would too.
Here's the thing. If it was like New Orleans and they offered
No, if you're
something-
Washington, Charlotte, Utah for these teams, then no.
You say no.
Yeah, but
like New Orleans, Houston, the Spurs, if they win it, I would say yes.
you would have to look at it as we just got Devin Booker based on a lottery ball. Like we just sort of like we won. We didn't win the number 1 pick in the lottery. We won Devin Booker.
Yeah.
And you would just do it. Interesting.
Yeah.
So then Phoenix ends up with Cooper Flagg.
Bradley Beal, Bull.
Right. That's
And
a big
can
three.
you get like one of your own picks back in that trade?
No.
Just-
But could you do Devin Booker and Kevin Durant to Houston and start getting those picks back?
Yeah, I would offer it for sure. Just
We'll give you all of it. Give us back Van Vliet, whatever other salary, all of our picks back.
Yeah. I bet you Houston does it too. Houston's really, it seems just uber motivated to just like skip this rebuilding thing and just like.
Well, they did the rebuilding thing, right? So I think they're done. They're gonna make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
You've got a bunch of stuff that you like. Start moving it
I think
around.
Phoenix should also just ask for Reed Shepard, who just has barely played. Just be like, hey, you're not going to play him anyway because you got Devin Booker. Can we just have Reed Shepard?
Mm-hmm.
Probably get him.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
I want a chaotic lottery. Like I feel like it's been a while since we've had like a truly chaotic lottery, and this is like the kind of year that there's multiple chaotic options kind of hanging out there.
Maybe Miami can move to 1.
I would love that for you, but they'd have to like fall out. No, like they'd have to like.
Don't put it past them. They only have 10 players available right now. All of a sudden, they're injured. So,
Hey, you know what? I had fun watching Cavs Heat on Wednesday. I love Bam.
game.
Kevin Love finally coming back to Cleveland, and weirdly coincidentally, Tristan Thompson is back and still on the Cavs, and Richard Jefferson calling the game. We're just getting 2016 vibes. It's never gonna die, you know.
I was happy for you.
I was happy considering how it ended with Kevin Love in Cleveland. I was glad we actually had some.
Yeah.
It was good that there was a little bit of time to heal before we
He
had
seemed
that.
to really enjoy being back. So whatever time you needed to heal, that time has been well spent. Seems like everything's good now.
Yes. All right, we're gonna end there. There's our tiers. Back next week, more Just Basketball show, getting into all kinds of different NBA things. Probably some more playoff look ahead. Some maybe Wes. I feel like we should do we're gonna find like a case study on a team. I'm gonna throw that out there. We're gonna get into some weeds. Get you ready for the playoffs. March Madness coming up. Maybe we'll do like a draft lens on March Madness. There's a whole lot going on. Have a good
I'm not
weekend.
prepared for any of this.
Wes, here's the thing. Neither am I. That's what till next week is. We got time. We got time to talk and plan. We'll talk to y'all next week. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the hoops.